Hey everybody, Lisa Young Sutton here with another video, and today's topic is clarifying cards or clarifier cards. So what are clarifying cards? Well, clarifying cards are extra cards you draw after you've already laid a spread. So in other words, you've already decided on your question, you've already shuffled your cards, you decided how many cards you were going to lay and how you were going to read them, as in, as a story or a narrative or as a descriptive, using a focus card, that kind of thing. You've already decided all that. You shuffle the cards, you lay the cards out, and then for whatever reason, you then decide to add more cards to this existing spread. That's what clarifier cards are. They are not a new question. They are not a new spread. They are adding extra cards to an existing spread. So why would you do such a thing? Well, I can think of 3 reasons, so let's run through those. Now, the first would be that you don't like the answer you're receiving from the cards, and that's the first example we have here. So this is a young girl, and she is dating this guy. They've gone on a few dates, and she's really into him, and she asks, how will the relationship progress? Right? So that's a narrative reading. How will the relationship progress? And she lays whip, crossroads, and coffin. And, right away she looks at these cards and she's like, I must have done something wrong. These cannot be my cards because we're getting along so well. I must have been thinking of my friend Jill because, her relationship is in the toilet. So, but anyway, right away she's going to panic. She's going to look at these cards and she's going to try to figure out how she can make these, more positive, essentially, right? So she's going to look at them and she's going to say, ooh, you know what? She might say, oh, this is my wild sex card. And I believe the coffin can be the bed. And this is more than one. So it looks like we're going to invite other people into the bedroom, and we're going to, okay, no, I just, I just made that one up. But actually what I was thinking, this is the more likely scenario, that she would look at these cards and she would say, okay, we're going to have a fight, and then we're going to decide to stop fighting. Okay? Yeah. Now that happens more often than you would realize, right? And that can easily happen to anybody. I mean, don't we do that, right? We start to panic and we think, oh, that can't possibly mean it's going to end. It's, and then you're fishing, right? You're trying to find the answer that you want to find. So let the cards tell the story. Do not try to tell the cards the story. Pulling extra cards in this case will not help you. I don't care if obviously if you pull another card and you get a negative card, that's just making it worse. But you know what? Even if you pulled a positive card, that's not going to change these cards. And where's that going to end anyway? I mean, if you decide to pull extra cards, are you going to keep pulling cards until the whole deck is laying here until you get what you want? But it's just going to muddy the waters. It's going to confuse the reading, and you're not going to get anywhere. So just not liking the answer is never a reason to pull more cards. Okay, what is the second possible reason that I can think of? And that would be that you don't understand the message of the cards. And now that is not the same thing as not liking the message, right? Because when you don't like the message of the cards, you just don't want to see it. You most likely see it, very clearly, but you don't want to see it and you're trying to change it. But sometimes you don't understand at all the message of the cards. Let me give you an example of that. So the question I thought of for these cards is, why does she make me so angry? All right, why does she make me so angry? So right away, you're pissed off, right? She's making you mad, right? And you want to know why. So what are you thinking? You're already thinking of all these negative cards. You're expecting to see the mountain and the snake and the fox and maybe the whip and the birds and whatever. And then you get 3 cards like this. You get stars, bouquet, and key. And you're like, well, what the hell does that mean? Well, okay, there's a couple of reasons why sometimes you end up drawing cards that have that seem to have no bearing at all on your question. And actually, this used to happen to me a lot. And I'm going to mention this because I honestly don't know if this happens to other people. So, let me know in the comments if this has ever happened to you. But initially, when I would be so focused on an answer, right? I would be so focused on what cards I thought were going to show up that the universe would actually give me the opposite cards. It's kind of like, oh, you know what? This looks like a pendulum, doesn't it? Right. Picture a pendulum, right? You have a pendulum, right? And you pull it all the way back to the left. And then you release it. Well, it has to swing all the way to the right. It has to swing an equal distance to the right, right? And then go back and forth until it gets to its center where it wants to be. And that's kind of like what I think was happening when I would be so focused on a positive answer or a negative answer that the universe would give me the exact opposite, the opposite energy. In other words, it was saying, you're so far off center that we're trying to balance this out, And what basically the message I get when that happens, I mean, it doesn't happen anymore, but it used to happen all the time, was that, I wasn't a blank slate. My mind was already made up. I wasn't the blank slate that I needed to be to read the cards. So I knew that I had to just put the cards away and go about my day and come back to it later when I was in a better frame of mind. And then I would get completely different cards. And so that always worked out. So, I'm just throwing that out there because that is a possibility. So you might want to try that. If the cards seem to make no sense at all, it could very well be that you were just way too focused in one direction or the other, and the cards are, the universe is trying to balance out that energy, so you just can't read the cards at that moment. All right, so back to what I was talking about was you don't understand the message of the cards. Okay, so is pulling another card going to help this? Well, what was the question? Why does she make me so angry? All right, well, you got 3 lovely cards here. So what if you pull another card and you wind up getting the Sun? Well, now you get the message. Okay, these don't make sense. But even if you pull a negative card, that's not going to change the fact that you don't understand what these cards are saying. It's not going to help. Pulling an extra card in this situation will not help you. Okay, so the third reason I can think of, and possibly the one that's the most easily justifiable, is not knowing what's coming after the last card. Or in some cases, it's one of the cards specifically in the line, is giving you a problem. So, let me see. Usually, if it's a person card and you want to know, who is that person? You want to know more about them. All right. Well, adding an extra card is not going to help you. In that case, you need another spread. You have another question, don't you? Right? If this was in a line here, like that for that same question, right? Why does she make me so angry? And you got something like this. Well, and you have no idea who that is. Well, that's the card now that's messing you up, right? So that's a new question. Who is this guy, right? That's not adding an extra card. That's a new question. What? Here. All right, here are the cards that I have for this. Okay. For this lovely example. All right, so remember, now we're talking about you want to know more, right? The answer to this question is leaving you with more questions, right? Okay, that's basically what we're talking about here. And this is classic, that you have a card at the end of the line that screams for another card. Because here you have the side, and the pointy side, I call it the pointy side, most people call it the blade side, right? Handle side, blade side. But the pointy side is facing nothing. So you're thinking, well, I need to put something there. And it happens a lot too, like if you get the stork as the last card. Okay, like you understand what this is saying, and then all of a sudden there's a change, and you're like, well, what's going to change? What is the change going to, right? Or the coffin at the end. A lot of times you'll see the coffin at the end, and you want to know what happens after an ending. The end of the line is an end, and you want to know what happens after it. So there are a lot of times when you want to draw extra cards, but there's a problem with doing it. All right? The problem is that you've already established a contract, say, with Spirit to draw a certain number of cards, to read them in a certain way, right? Yes, I know rules are made to be broken, and there's, you know, and I can add extra cards if I want. I can just hear everybody saying all this stuff, but just bear with me a minute. Just hear me out. Okay, so in remote viewing, we call this a closed circuit. Once you've decided what you're doing, right? Once you've made that contract, this is what I'm going to do, okay? So now you're both on the same page. You and Spirit are both on the same page. You know what you're doing, they know what you're doing, whoever they are, right? And you're on the same page. It's called a closed circuit, right? So you can't reopen a closed circuit. All you can do is start another circuit, okay? This one is already a done deal. So now I have to share this with you. This is funny because what happened is last night I got out my book bag. I was actually just moving my book bag, and this book fell out, okay? This is Camellia Elias's, hang on, this is her new Marseille Tarot book, okay? Now this was in my book bag, and I was thinking about this video. I was picking up my book bag, and this book fell out, and I said, oh, you know what? I bet she has something in here related to clarifier cards. And, you know, there's no index, right? And then I went to the table of contents, and that didn't help me at all. You know, I couldn't find anything related to clarifier cards, but I thought, oh, I bet she says something in there about them. I opened up the book to the exact page, okay? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that totally blows my skirt up, so I had to share this. So I opened the book to this page, and it says, it's easy to give in to the temptation to pull more cards from the deck, but that's never a good idea when what stares you in the face is an already tight answer. Pulling more cards from the deck makes sense if there's an immediate follow-up question, as that gives the initial narrative a new direction. Okay? So what she's saying here is, if you have a follow-up question, go ahead and ask it and draw more cards, but do not attempt to draw more cards and add them to an existing reading. So let me get back to this example here. All right, now this question for these cards was, how will the evening progress? What I was thinking with these three cards was, I was thinking of you know, somebody going on a first date, and they're going to a restaurant, and you want to know how the evening will progress with this person, okay? So you draw these three cards. Now, these three cards are showing the progression of the evening. So this is a narrative, right? So the evening starts, you know, in a traditional way. He comes to your house and picks you up. He's very polite. It's all very comfortable, right? And it progresses peacefully. This is a peaceful card. This is a card of satisfaction. This is a card of pleasure. But it's also a rather it's like the Temperance card, right? It's neither, you know, it's not too far in either direction. This is like homeostasis right here. So I mean, this is where you want to be, but it's also very vanilla, right? So this is all very peaceful. Nothing exciting though. But here we have a little excitement at the end, don't we? This is a sudden interruption of this piece. This is the handle side. These peaceful cards are being drawn into something sudden and possibly dangerous, right? So you're wondering, well, what the heck does this mean? So, you know, these two gave you no trouble, and then you got to this one. Well, that's giving you a new question, right? You want to know what's suddenly going to interrupt our peaceful evening. That adding an extra card here is trying to reopen the closed circuit, all right? These three cards are part of the contract that you had with the universe, right? To answer your question, they said, okay, well, we're going to give you these three cards because together these three are going to give you an answer. And then all of a sudden you decide you're going to throw more cards on the end, and it's going to muddy the waters. It's not going to clear things up, and you can very easily create a story from it, and I'm going to show you an example of how easy it is to do that, but it's going to take you away from your initial question. All right, so say you say, okay, so the evening starts out pleasant and we're having a great time, and then all of a sudden something suddenly happens. Okay, and you're wondering, okay, what is this sudden interruption? And then you draw the book and you're like, oh great, okay, so the scythe is cutting open the book. You're suddenly going to find something out. You're going to find out a secret. And right away you're thinking, oh geez, I'm going to find out something horrible about this guy, right? And then you draw another card and you get the bear, and you think, okay, so I'm suddenly going to find out that he's jealous and overbearing. Well, at this point, you're not even answering your initial question anymore. Now you're asking a question about the person. All you asked was, how will the evening progress? Which is a very vague question, by the way. All right, so I do have a video on questions in case you haven't seen it yet. Vague questions will give you vague answers, and they will just scream for more questions. What are some other examples of bad questions? Compound questions. Any question that is more than one question rolled into one, that they usually have the word and or the word or in them, or there are just so many details that they're like 3 different questions rolled into one. So those are the things that can lead you to want to draw cards in the first place. So, if we just had to get down to the bare basics, it's start out with a good question to begin with, and you're not going to be tempted to have to pull clarifier cards. Okay, so at this point you got off the topic. So what could you have done? Well, let's think about that. All right, so you asked how the evening will progress, and this is giving you a hard time, right? So these answer the question, how will the evening progress? It's going to start out in a traditional way, comfortable, it's going to be pleasant, and then all of a sudden a sudden interruption. Well, you have no idea what. So now you have a new question. So ask, what will suddenly interrupt our peaceful evening? So that's a new question, right? So now you can draw 3 new cards. And in which case, we'll stick with these, right? And we need a third one. Here we go. Okay, now say you got these 3 cards. Now remember, you're going to a restaurant, all right, for dinner, and you already asked how the evening will go. Something is going to suddenly interrupt your peaceful evening. You asked what? Well, now you know that you're suddenly going to find something out, and you have these 2 cards. Well, okay, what do these 2 cards have in common? Well, actually, this card could be the menu of the restaurant. This is an eating card. This is an eating card, right? So these, and you don't have any court insets to tell you that this has anything to do with the person that you're going out with. So what will suddenly interrupt our peaceful evening could be that you discover like hair in your food. It's dirty. But it's going to be something big that's going to take away from your evening. I mean, maybe you're going to see mice, and bigger than a mouse, you're going to see a rat, or you're going to discover that all the food on the menu is too fattening and too heavy, and it's going to make you sick. I mean, as you can see, there again, that is a vague question, and you still don't know. But now you're thinking, well, wait a minute. Are these telling me something? You're still wondering about the guy, right? You're still going back to that. Ever since you had that little doubt there with the scythe, and then you got the book and the bear, and you're thinking, well, what about him? All right, so now you have a third question. You can see why I love grand tableaus, because this doesn't happen. But I know I don't want to be harping. I don't want to be a nag. And tell you all to start laying GTs, but anyway. Okay, so now you have a third question, and this is perfectly fine to keep asking new questions, right? I do it too. When I start out with a small spread, I wind up with a bunch of them. All right, so now you're going to ask a third question, and you're going to ask about the man that you are going out with, or the woman, whoever, but we're going to say it's Joe Schmo. So you want to know, how will you feel about Joe Schmo? And you get 18 to 13. right? You get the dog, the clover, the child. So right away, your fears are allayed. And, well, you don't have any romance cards here, so I guess your fears are the only things that are going to get allayed because we don't have any romance cards. Right, but seriously, sorry about that. Seriously, you know that how will you feel about him? Well, you're going to feel like, he's a friend. You're going to feel friendly toward him. You're going to, feel like he's fun, he's easygoing, he's kind, he's youthful, he's playful. I mean, look at the correlation among these cards, especially these two, very similar, in answering this question. And this is also the card of loyalty, so you're probably going to feel like you want to see him again, right? But my point here really is that, can you see how this is a closed circuit, right? These three cards are all working together to give you an answer. They showed up together for a reason. You're looking for correlations among the cards. What do these cards have in common? That's going to give me my answer, right? So, tacking extra cards onto the end is not useful. Okay, and it almost always muddies the water, or it will send the reading in a new direction, as you saw earlier, where you suddenly were describing the person you were going out with rather than just answering your initial question. And that's what happens if you keep adding extra cards on. You get away from your original question. Okay, so I hope that was clear, and add any questions or comments below, and keep giving me the requests for more videos. I have 2 more actually I'm making this week, so that were requested by some of you. I hope this was helpful, and have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.